Welcome to the Inspiring Leadership Spotlight. Today, my name is Zach Jaffe. I'm the Community Manager for Inspiring Leadership, and thank you for everyone joining us. If you're here live, we've muted you all for the moment, but you're welcome to drop messages in the chat at any point, and myself or Joseph can take care of it. And if you have any tech issues, we'll help you out. If you have any questions for Dr. Sweeny, we can relay them to him. This is also being recorded, so you might be watching this on the Inspiring Leadership app right now. And if you are, you can also check out past Leadership Spotlight videos by finding the Leadership Spotlight section in our Topics tab. We're very happy to have Dr. Sweeny here. Dr. Lionel Sweeny Jr. is the director of the Doctor of Education in Computer Science program at Judson University. Dr. Sweeny is an accomplished human resources leader with global, broad-based management and generalist experience. His expertise includes building alliances to drive system-wide change strategies and performance improvement, resulting in value-added quality services to clients that impact the bottom line. His academic background includes adjunct instructor consultant positions at Roosevelt University, Judson University, DePaul University, University of North Texas, and Eastfield College. And with 15 plus years of combined experience in systems engineering, program management, human resources, organizational design, and change management in government, electronics, education, and telecommunications industries, Dr. Sweeny leads our growing program of those who want to lead in the field of computer science. He received his PhD in organizational design from Benedictine University. Thanks again for joining us, and I'll lead it off to Dr. Sweeny.
Good evening. Let me share my screen. Hello. I'd like to welcome everybody to this session tonight on the holistic development of self and use of self. Both of these terms have been around as subsets, but tonight's conversation is about how to potentially align the two together within your coaching practice. Each of these areas will provide you with an opportunity to align ideas, concepts, and theories from holistic development and use of self as tools to create innovation within an organization, to enhance a person or organization's skills from good, better to best, to define the transition of knowledge in the organization from tacit to explicit. As we look at the overview for our time together, I want to focus on our bag. It's stuff we have been carrying around since our early childhood. There's a lot of stuff in these bags. I want to suggest to you that for some reasons are to refocus the coaching models. I want to ensure that we understand the difference between traditional coaching and holistic development and use of self. Finally, I want to frame the holistic development and use of self concept. So, where do we start? First, I want to recognize that we all have a bag of information with ideas and innovations that have not been tapped into. Robert Bailey wrote a book called A Little Book on the Human Shadow in 1998. Now, as the story goes, Robert noted that we all have bags and carry them around with us throughout our life. We unlock all the substance in the bag as we grow from being a child with a mom and a dad, then going to school and having teachers tell us how to be the perfect student. And we become an adult with our friends and ideas of who we should be. Therefore, the stuff in our bags are sealed to be locked away forever. But as the issue is, the stuff in the bags appear one day. So one day something happens and this stuff appears. Imagine that. And as it is, it has regressed into something that is mad, angry, and ugly. to the level of barbarianism, right? It's without manners. Now, I'm going to propose the idea that we can reframe the information in the bag to create something new. This presentation will frame how holistic development and use of self are tools that can be used to uncover generative ideas and create emergent new innovations. We have the information in the bag, but refuse to use this information based on our past. So, why change the model? Today's coaching models focus on explicit knowledge from assessments, surveys, and dialogue. It pulls from tangible, visible, public information that can be assessed through third persons. The change will recommend that we use the information in our bags to assess tacit knowledge that is intangible, invisible, and private. It can be assessed on only a first person basis. Note also, as a part of the change, we'll deal with tacit, implicit, and complicit information in the bags. To focus on the explicit is to focus on the 20% of the coaching opportunity for enhancements. That's what we use today, focusing on the tacit as the potential to uncover 80% of the unknown potential. Now, to validate that we have concepts and theories in the bag to start with and don't have to start over, I have compiled a timeline that highlights some positive concepts, books, and theories that we can pull from. This is not an all-inclusive timeline. It's just intended to support the presentation that I'm going to give you tonight. So the first one is, if we go back to the 1930s, the use of self-concept was being used by OD consultants, right? So the theory has a whole line of usage going back all the way to the 1930s. Holistic movement began in the 1960s. So they used the use of self to focus on drug and technology, but the concept was there. They just didn't always have agreement on the viewpoint. Executive coaching in the 1980s focused on managers to help with performance in their organizations and teams. Concept was there, can be used. And I'm sure we use a lot of that in our coaching today. Triple impact coaching. This was designed out of an OD area, and they focused on the use of self for coaching. And it's called triple impact because it has impact on the person as self, the organization, and the other groups that may be associated with the person. Appreciative intelligence. This is a big one. This one, the book was written in 2006, and it focuses on the positive change and how we, with our conscious and subconscious, cognitively can reframe things. Now, what they've noticed is that reframing doesn't always happen, but we have the potential to do it. And they make the associating with the brain, the amygdala, and how we can test it through different processes to understand when it's being used or not. And last but least, consulting for organizational change. This was written by Dr. Jameson. Now, the key focus is he focuses on the use of self. And in this book, he defines 3 competencies, which he calls the see, know, and do, that we can develop over time to make an effective or more effective person, right? So us as a coach. So gaps in the literature do not focus on the alignment of good items in the bag to find the generative good that has been put away. To fill the gap, we must focus on tools that produce positive coaching that starts with the good and transition to the better and the best. This change is focused on developing special abilities while the person is still in the organization mentally. And I have to say that because we know sometimes people stay in an organization, but they've already mentally tuned out. So it's critical that when we use these tools, it helps us look at peak experiences in a person or organization past before the person leaves the organization. The main focus of holistic development and use of self coaching is to define and enhance the good tacit information in your bag. Remove the hysterical stereotypes and biases stuffed in the bag. Uncover missed opportunities that were not focused on by aligning the generative items with the what? The emergent things that are in your bag. So traditional coaching focuses on improving the negative. Holistic development and use of self with your strengths is the key point at which we start. Therefore, we can replicate and enhance the behavior. The reason to refocus the coaching model is because the historical model focused on usually the 20%, the explicit, right? Behavior challenges. The refocus has the potential to focus on 80% of the innovation located in recognizing behavior opportunities in our bag. The information that we have sealed away for reasons that may not apply today. It is the information that was perceived as negative and not given the opportunity to grow into the potential good. Now, with the changes and tools available today, we can reframe. We, we can understand what we can do that's new and different from the stuff in the bag. Therefore, the new ideas, the concepts, and theories can be used to focus on 80% of the information in our bag, using the generative information to reinforce and bring forth the innovative and emergent information to support behavior opportunity. The holistic development and use of self for coaching definition is to involve, facilitate engagement of people, emphasizing the focus on enhancing self and individuals. The holistic development looks at the physical, emotional, and social well-being, whereas the use of self is focused on the self-awareness, self-behavior, and self-efficacy. The holistic development and use of self model has four domains split into internal and external opportunities. So if you look at the left, the internal is the heart, the feeling, and the head. That's the logical thought. Those are the things that we develop and find in the bag and we pull out. These are the things you keep you inside or even disguised as something different when you go to work, right? It doesn't let you allow you to be you. It's your belief and values. We can't see that. We can't touch that, but that's a combination of the heart and the mind. The external is where we've always put the focus. That's the 20%. That's the behavior, the habits, the patterns that we can see today. So, working on use of self is about. Dr. Jameson's put this together, and I'm borrowing this information from him. But clearly, it's the areas that we get to work on when we focus on use of self and holistic development in our coaching model. And it's critical because being more effective, impactful, and successful in your intended roles, the things you want to do, the things you care about today, you bring your whole self. You know, sometimes you hear people say, well, I only bring a part of me to work, or I only show a part of me, because we've been taught to split up who we are. And through the things that people have told us, we put stuff away in that bag that at that time may not have worked, but today with the different tools and techniques under holistic development and use of self, there's some opportunity to take some good that was there and progress it into better and best, progress it into better and best, providing your best service, help to others. Your goal is to always provide your best to others. Not that we don't do that today, but if we understand some of the things that we put away, we will understand how to do things better. A lot of millionaires have been made today that have not completed college, but they have done things. They've learned how what to reframe their failures into success. That's the key. When Caitlin talks about resilience in her book, resilience is that ability to understand self, and when you need to rebound, get up, and start over. Understanding who you are and what you bring to the situation is critical. And when you come, you've got to learn to bring your whole self. And if you bring your whole self, you understand your biases and your stereotypes so that you can get what? Better or clarified information out of the situation. Knowing how to manage and take care of yourself. That balance of the holistic, your physical and mental, and balancing this work, work life is critical. That when we look at it, we understand self better. But at the end of the day, we've got to holistically look at how we live and work. Continual learning from experience, developing self over time. That's the competencies of see, know, and do. If we learn to use those competencies, the C focuses on what's out there. Whenever you're doing the work, what it looks like. So you see it. When the know, over time, you have repetitive patterns and stuff you've looked at. So you determine how to what? Take it apart. And the do is the ability to continue to use what you've learned to enhance what you do. That's use of self in its essence, right? So you use what you've got from the past and you learn how to better reframe to get the new idea. Developing towards your best self. At the end of the day, holistic development aligned with use of self is defined to help you be a better person. It starts with you and then it what pours over into your coaching opportunities. Wherever you go, you bring who you are, and when you leave who you are. Whatever you show to people, whatever you do to people, is what happens whenever you go, there you are. And when you leave or when you show up, who you are comes with you. Dr. James says it's critical that we understand. If we come in a good mood, that's what people get. But if we come in a bad mood and we don't do everything we could do to be a better person, a better deliverer, a better coach, that's also what we give to people. And that's the thing we get to learn and balance as we better use of self as a tool. You become the tool and you become the person that ensures that you're doing your best through what you do, when you do, and how you do it. The missing piece is often self. As we open our bags, the part of us that is missing gets to evolve, focused on the generative of the past and the emergent of the future. That's what use of self is all about. And at the end of the day, holistic development and use of self are intended to be a critical part of coaching. Now, again, this is not new and different. The information is out there, but we have to learn how to pull it in and make it a part of our coaching practice. It's critical that we fill the gap in the literature so that we can enhance what? Our coaching practices. Now, that's not to say that anybody's doing anything wrong. As I went through here, clearly the thing I wanted to sell is people to understand that we're getting the 20%, but there's a 80% opportunity. If you look at the iceberg, that's the stuff we don't see. That's people's beliefs and their values. So when you start looking at the work, if you really want to enhance the opportunity, you got to dig down into it and understand what I'm believing, because what I'm believing is driving what I'm doing. And sometimes if we only focus on the 20%, you get the behavior that I decided I'm going to show you. That doesn't make it right or wrong. It makes the behavior I started to show you. But how do I enhance that? I start to look at the good you do today. So, what are your hooks? What are the triggers, the things that people like about you? That's use of self. That's where we start. The old coaching model started with your triggers. What are the things that make you a bad manager? What are the things that make you a bad team player? That's not where we're going to start. If we understand what your hooks are, we can probably convert some of your triggers into hooks. But we have to understand and dig deep and use the different tools out there today that focus on the positive. This is a big thing in OD, but I think it has a bigger presence and opportunity when we look at coaching, because it enhances us and it enhances the people that we're coaching. Well, that's a concept that I pulled together. And at this time, I'd like to definitely entertain any questions, comments, feedback, or input.
Dr. Sweeny, there is a message from Kate Buckley in the chat. Um, she would love to hear more about how the coaching influences that partnership beyond the coaching between the company and the individual.
Okay. So how does it work beyond the coaching with the company and the individual? The first thing is they understand and recognize that when I come to them, I'm transparent. So what does that look like? From the consultant side, sometimes we'll have talk about what we're going to do, but some of the things you may want me to do may not be the things that I feel could help you in the coaching mode. Sometimes we take on coaching relationships that may be close to heart or close to friendship, and we have a problem with communicating the transparency. With use of self, we take in and believe that it starts with the transparency. So I, Lionel, look at my biases and my stereotypes I have with our relationship. And I have, when we have the conversation about the coaching, we talk about that as a part of the coaching, because the expectation is maybe because you know me, you expect that I'm gonna line up with you. But the reality is, if I'm going to be an effective coach, I may have to give you information that says that's not going to work. And at the end of the day, there's some other people in what you're asking for that are not in the room. And for us to be effective as a group, we'd have to pull those other people in the room. So what that means is at that point, when we're negotiating, I and the customer have to agree if what they're asking me to do includes the right people. And if it doesn't, then for us to effectively go forth with the work, they have to be a part of the dialogue. And if we agree to work on that, I think we have an opportunity. But if what we're being fed does not have the right people in the wrong room, then we, by using use of self, our self-efficacy, we have to make different decisions that we may make today or be making today. So are you referring specifically to executive coaching or kids as well, right? At the end of the day, I'm referring to coaching and an opportunity to put tools in your toolkit. Now, you can use them for executives or you can use them for kids. At the end of the day, that's a part of the contract or the condition you have to work through when you're working the work you want to take in, right? So that can be an adult or that can be working with kids or youth group. At the end of the day, those are the things you have to work out in the beginning. But the use of self, the concept and holistic development, again, those are tools that you pull into the toolkit. Sorry, meant kids. Not, sorry, meant kinds, not kids. I'm not understanding.
They might have meant, I think they might have meant other kinds as well, not necessarily kids. other kinds of coaching, yes, like life coaching, et cetera.
So definitely life coaching. When you look at the holistic side, it's taken off in drugs and technology. But the other thing is nursing has used holistic coaching. The thing with it is it has multiple views out there today, right? And so some have picked it up, some haven't. But that's a key part, I think, to coaching today is we need to look at those views and determine when you take on a coaching opportunity, what are the additional tools that come from that you can pull into your toolkit. And that's what I'm saying is some of those tools can be used in your general coaching toolkit, and that's not done today. Any more questions?
Lionel, this is Joseph. I actually have a question for you. You have some pretty deep roots in terms of the research that underpins what you're talking about. How much time have you invested in figuring all of this out?
So that's a good question, Josh, because for me, it started out as an adventure. I went back to get my PhD in organization design to understand more about the boxes or the tools. Whereas in HR, we are usually the user of the tools. I wanted to understand how to create the tools. Once I got there, I started looking or doing my lit review of everything that impacts organization transformation. And the big piece that came out started in the 1980s with Dr. Cooper Rodder's Appreciative Inquiry, right? It became a big opportunity. Some people use it, some people don't. In the class, I was one of 27. I was the only one that we say drank the Kool-Aid, really believed in it, right? And so once you pull it apart, you start to understand what's generative. How do you get to generative, right? Looking at the past and focusing on the good. The issue is that most of the time when we start doing group development, people want to talk about the problems. The intent now is not to focus on the problem. That doesn't say they're not problems, but it does say there's an opportunity that was to look at what was good that was done. That's the generative, right? That's not new and different. That's already there. Once we understand that, then we can use what they call dialogic OD. That just takes you a little deeper. Rather than just using your surveys and assessments, you have individual conversation with key people to understand more about the patterns and the trends in the data. If you look at an organization, what I found over the last 3 years working on my doctorate to get my dissertation done, which is how to transition organization, I found out that you can use appreciative inquiry with groups, small groups, large groups. But sometime when you get to that area where you want to refocus, right, you have to understand that there are other tools you can use, and dialogic OD is one of those tools, right? So if you look at the model that I aligned with over time is to define it. Then after you define it, what it is we're going to work on, you go to the next level. You just you discover. So what are the other elements, the patterns and things out there? What is the trends that are out there that we need to connect to it to build out what we want to do? Once you do that, then the next thing would be the dream state. And in the dream state, you start dreaming about all the new things. You don't use just the generative stuff. That's the emergent. What's new and different? So when you're working with a group, you're pushing them to look at the things that were in the past that they can use now and reframe, right? That's the key piece, because in that dream state, you want to reframe. And reframing doesn't mean you throw it all away. It means you've looked at it and you're going to use the best of the best as your foundation to go forward.
Great,
Question.
thank you.
How did discovery and realization affect you personally? For me personally, that's a very good question. It changed my behavior, right? So as a consultant, I don't go in and try to peel back the onion and understand what are the layers per looking at the bad or what needs to be fixed. I go in and I'm looking for the good. And from the good, I'm going to feel better and best. That's different, right? So I'm going from good to better and best. I believe, and I truly believe it, you can start with the good and reframe, right? Or use your resilience to do something different. The thing for me personally is before I started my doctorate program, I had a massive stroke. And at that point, I knew I had to learn to do some things different. Well, they were able to help me medically, but a part of my rehabilitation was to get the brain to think differently, do the things I need to do, but you use different pathways. That's all we're talking about when we talk about holistic development and use of self. We're talking about using what you've had, but redevelop it, refocus it. It's critical that we understand it's not a start over, it's a modify, right? It's a reframe. So for me, personality has changed, and I get so the new job at Judson, it's I can tell the difference. I'm more of a collaborator. I pull people together. I listen to the negative, but I always look at, okay, how can we make that different? That's always my byline. How do we make that different, right? Or I'll say, that's their truth. This is your truth. What's the new truth we want to have? That's what we're trying to get out of it. So I'm more of a negotiator and a effective facilitator because I'm looking for the good and I'm not downplaying anything to be bad, right? And sometimes our biases make things bad that may not be bad. They may be just different for us. Oh, thank you, Kathy Hamburger. Kathy says, I think you have always been a collaborator. Kathy was one of my past bosses, and want to say hi, Kathy. And she introduced me to Caitlin, and based on this whole concept that took me back to work on my doctorate. Because when I was working with Kathy, we built a partnership based on making things positive, right? And when we had opportunities, they were things where we believe salespeople could do things differently. And we got together and we would huddle on how do we make it different? So at the end of the day, she owns the person, but I own the opportunity for any personal development to make them a better what? Salesperson, a better developer, or look at the talent in HR. It was critical that I understood that we had to start with good. Bad wasn't an option. What's the biggest difference you've seen between HR and academia? Well, that's a good one. What's the biggest difference between academia and HR? Well, first of all, I want to say there's a lot of similarities, right? When it comes to who's right and who's wrong, academia believes in theory. We believe in a good practitioner. Well, the difference is we both need to get together. And so what I've seen is in academia, I'm known for my academic type stuff. And when I do something that looks like corporate, guess what? People say that's corporate. We don't do that here. But now the way I focus on all this is today, they're both two groups. They have different cultures. But at the end of the day, what do we want to get? How do we reframe, right? And that's the critical thing. So for me, when I look at academia and HR, yes, those were two different worlds, but the both together have the potential to make something new and different. Because with academia, I've learned to understand theories to enhance my practitioner work, the work I do, right? And I think that's a major opportunity, but that's a major difference today. Now, if we look at change and change management, I think it could be done, but we have a lot of work to do because each world has their own competencies and are known for what they are. We're going to have to reframe, and it's critical that we do that together because right now, most businesses don't want to wait 4 years to get an executive through school, right? So we've got to do models that look different. Then HR want to make sure we're applying what? The right processes and procedures. Well, we've been taught that it's 2 years, 4 years to get a degree. Some people in academia are using certification. So it's that blending of both worlds to produce the best of what? What's to come. And how do we do that? We look at both worlds and understand what was the positive in both and what do we do to reframe it to get the better or best of the new world. And I think COVID has shown that to us. So the opportunity for corporate America or HR and academia is to get together and change the conversation. Focus on the different that make us what? Look alike. But that's the biggest thing, because as far as teams, we call them teams, they call them committees. So the name may change, but the work is the same. In HR didn't traditionally use project management, but I'd worked with several groups that used it. And so HR is coming up to speed with project management. Now, in academia, I love it. They got theories, they get theories, but they need to work on project management. Project management is defining your plan and sticking to it. It's not having a meeting and coming back and talking some more. That's good. I'm not complaining about that, but the opportunity is to align what? More project management. And I know those two look different. And so I can pick on that one now that I've worked in both worlds. And that was an opportunity that HR had picked up on and start working it to be a better business partner. And it's an opportunity for academia to ensure that they do things more along a project managed timeline that companies will feel more comfortable with their ability to do, because they have the knowledge, right? It's just that now, again, how do you take that knowledge and reuse it to get the best of both worlds? That's the opportunity. Good question. Any other questions? So Jack, Joseph, how do we want to handle it here?
Hi there, Lionel. I think we were stuck for just a little bit.
Okay.
I think that actually is a really nice place to end on. I did want to ask before we leave, for anyone who is watching this either now or later on the Inspiring Leadership channel, if they're interested in you and in your work, where can they reach out to possibly get in touch with you, or to find out more about you and what you do?
Yeah, let me share my screen. So there's two key ways to get me. My email, that'll get it directly to me or somebody in the consulting practice, and we'll get back with you. But the other thing, if you want general information about me, or you have general questions, you can get to me through LinkedIn. That's become a major vehicle for me to take in questions and have opportunity to work with different people. So those are the two ways: the email or LinkedIn address. You can use either one of those to get in contact with me.
Thank you so much, Lionel. We'll give everyone a moment here to make a note of that. And once again, we just want to thank you for being our Spotlight presenter for October. It's been great hearing you, and we look forward to being in touch in the future. So thanks to all of you for attending. Thank you, Lionel, for presenting, and we hope that you have a great rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thanks all. Take care.